Hey, Frank, wanted to see what the latest info on LeBron James and the ankle was.
Yeah, he's out for the Clippers game. He did a day after that. Just with him playing the two games back, he needed those games to kind of test it out and see where he was at. And after playing those two games, we all decided, and talking to him and the medical team, to just give it a little bit more time. So he'll be out the Clippers game and be day to day after that.
Frank, how does that influence the way that you approach, even if it's just the next game that he misses, how does that impact the way that you approach the next couple weeks leading up to the playoffs, if at all?
Well, we want him back as soon as possible, but we want him back as healthy as possible. That's the number one goal. Wherever we end up in the standings, we want him as healthy as possible going into the playoffs. And other than that, we're just going to compete and win as many games as we can down the stretch here.
And Frank, this might be easier, more of a question for LeBron. So obviously, you don't want to speculate as to how he's feeling, but just wondering how confident you are that he'll be able to get to the point where you need him to be in order to win playoff series.
Well, we'll see. It's not an ideal situation. Ideally, he gets 100% and has 10 games to get his legs in rhythm and timing under him. We're not going to have that situation, so we're just going to make the best of it.
And Frank, we talked a little bit about this, I think, before the Denver game. You guys are in a little bit of a bind because it's like your two primary offensive organizers are LeBron and Dennis, and you don't have them.
Yes.
How do you even think about addressing that? What are some of the sort of the creative options that you have? Whether I noticed you put AD as a pick and roll ball handler.
Yes.
A few times. Mark is obviously a talented passer. What are kind of some of the ways you can hack that, or can you?
Yeah, that's all we're talking about right now is just short-term reinventing ourselves. While those guys are out, and Alex and Talon are gonna handle the ball as much as possible, and play traditionally. But everybody's got to be able to handle the rock, and we have to have more of a multiple ball handler approach with our offense. And like you mentioned, we did see that the other night against Denver with AD handling way more than he typically does, and being involved in pick and roll action. But we're working on our offensive spacing. We're also working on building the AD Drummond relationship, and their spacing concepts. So there's a lot in play here, and we're just trying to make the best of it. It's certainly a great challenge not having your two primary ball handlers available, with these important games. And I would add to that Talon is, I think, going to be listed as questionable. He did not practice with a calf strain today, so we don't know if we're going to have him available either. So again, multiple ball handler attack.
Well,
Frank, just real quick on LeBron. Did he do anything today in practice? And then with the pain that he described after the game on Sunday, has that been a persistent thing, or was that something he really only experienced when he was going full speed in the game?
The pain that he described?
Yeah, he described that he was feeling a sharp pain, and that's what kind of sent him back to the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was just something he felt in game. That obviously you're not going to feel until you're playing 100% intensity. So he felt it there, and again, we met and decided to give that ankle a little bit more time. And in terms of today, he did not do anything with the team in practice, but he did his normal rehab work, with the training staff.
And then there's a second question, kind of relating to what Dan was asking about your guys' creativity. We talked so much about your centers and wanting to keep them all sharp and the value they all bring. One thing you guys haven't done this year, at least in any significant ways, play Trez and Mark together. And I don't ask you this to challenge you. I'm just curious. What is it about that pairing that you guys have determined isn't a look for you?
Yeah, it's tough to play two bigs in the modern NBA. You know what I mean? Two centers. So there are some things that we like about it. We have talked at length about it, in particular when we first got Drummond. And it's not something that we've gone to. I think you have to do it against certain matchups only. If the other team's playing four guards, in a big or five smalls, it's just really tough to defend at a high level, with that type of luck, or create the right separation offensively, with speed getting under your chin and being able to create penetration. So, there's some things you can do with that. Obviously I played with two bigs a lot, back in Indiana. The game is different. We can look at that, but it's just not something that we put into play yet. But it is something that we've talked about.
Hey Frank, to follow the thread on Talon, obviously he had that crucial rotation in the fourth quarter for you guys, but he's had other shifts that just he hasn't quite looked maybe solid. I'm wondering if you sense that from him. I know he's young. What ground does he have to cover to ensure that he has a playoff rotation spot for this team?
Yeah, he's just got to keep competing every day. When he competes, we'll be fine with him out there. He is like every other young player I've ever coached, where he has some really good stretches, and then he looks like a young player at certain times. And that's to be expected. You take the good with the bad, with a situation like that. And we coach him every day on reinforcing the positives that he's bringing to the table. His reads, I thought his reads the other night were as good as they've been in a few games, with some paint to great situations. He's got to continue to improve on the defensive end. He's got to take care of the basketball, so.
And just as a
yeah.
follow-up, have you had to have any conversation with him with Dennis's sort of uncertainty that, hey, we might need you for certain stretch runs even in the playoffs or a potential play-in?
I mean, it's just a mindset that everybody's got to be ready to go. I think he understands, when Dennis is out, that AC and he are going to be the two primary ball handlers and point guards with Bron and Dennis out. I don't think we need to go any more detail than that.
Frank, where's Drummond in terms of where you expect him to be at this stage of being in your program, and what does he need to do, and what do you guys need to do to get him to the next stage of where you'd like him to be?
Yeah, he's not quite where we want him to be yet, but that's part of adding a guy mid-season, with so many other moving parts involved. I think if we're whole, the integration process with Drummond would have gone, smoother, and he would be further along. But we haven't been. There's been so many moving parts around him. It's been tough in some situations to get a rhythm. Overall, I'm very happy with what he's bringing to our team, but it still needs to be improved, and that's what we're working on each day.
To follow real quick, is having Mark and Trez a benefit in this process because you have other capable guys, or does sometimes it provide any tension because as Drummond's trying to get along, he realizes that maybe there aren't going to be minutes for him because there's other guys who can come in and play?
No, there's going to be minutes for him, and he's going to help us win a championship this year and compete. The fact that the other guys are playing well also is always a good thing. It's what they call a good problem, and finding ways for all those guys to contribute is one of my bigger challenges right now. And just measuring each game, what it's going to take to win that game, is also a big challenge. But we said from day one that we're going to need all three of those guys. That's been playing out as we predicted, and that's going to stay the case.
We've got time for a few more. Jim Alexander.
Yeah, Frank, you guys and the other team in town who you're playing tomorrow night are kind of in the same situation because there's a sense of uncertainty. There's guys coming back from injury. It's kind of scrambled more than it should be at this point of the season. Is that something that's happening around the league, and is it sort of a reaction to the short turnaround?
I think it seems to me that there's more teams that are in this adjustment phase than are not. Utah's dealing with injuries. Denver's dealing with injuries. Clippers have guys coming back. Brooklyn, obviously has guys. They haven't seen their big three play together. It just seems like there's more teams that are, in this type of adjustment period and trying to find cohesiveness than teams that are whole. Whether that's because of the shortened season or not, shortened off season, that's impossible to tell. and it's really not really relevant. And this is a situation we're in. We all got to make the best of it.
Does that make it maybe a little less stressful than it might be otherwise, the idea that you're not the only ones in this boat? That everybody's dealing with the same thing?
I don't really think about it being stressful. We just have, this is the hand that we're dealt, and we're going to make the best of it. We have enough to get the job done. It's not going to be perfect, but we got to maximize our time that we have together each day, and understand that other teams are in this situation as well.
Thank you.
Mark?
Hey Frank, good to see you. Got a two-parter here. One, has the medical team given any indication of what are the benchmarks LeBron needs to hit before he's fine to play again? And secondly, I know you guys have practiced today, but knowing the compressed nature of the schedule, are there going to be practice opportunities for him, or is it just unavoidable that the next opportunity for him to test out the ankle will have to be in the game?
Yeah, we'll see. I think we have 2 days after the Portland game. There might be an opportunity to practice in one of those. We always look for opportunities to create a 3-on-3 or a 4-on-4 if there's not a full practice. But we don't know yet, where he's going to be at that point. He's literally going to be, evaluated and how he's feeling day to day with his daily work, and we'll take it from there.
Harrison?
As you kind of are, as you're kind of managing that challenge of finding ways for all 3 of these centers to contribute, is part of the reason that Drummond is starting and playing so many minutes, is that part of trying to accrue sample sizes on him with different lineups, like you were kind of able to get with Gasol and Trez over the earlier part of the season?
Yeah, it is. I think the minutes that he's playing with AD, that's probably the most important thing that we're looking at, trying to build that relationship. Obviously it's gonna look a lot better when our primary creator, quarterback, ball handler is in there. But they still have to have as many minutes together as possible to try to build those relationships.
All right, we're going to Andy Kamenetsky and then Dan for a follow-up. Dan?
Hey Frank, you mentioned a few times after games or before games about just this process of getting Andre and Anthony acclimated together. You're doing it at this time where you're up against the clock before the playoffs begin. How do you weigh the pros and cons of that process, and I guess what do you ultimately see as the upside that comes from going through it?
The upside is the reason we signed Andre Drummond. Is we feel like we have an elite center that can help us win a championship. That's the upside, and the bumps in the road are to be expected. They're not pleasant when you lose games you feel like you should win or need to win. But it's just part of the process. This is the situation we're in where nobody's freaking out over it. We're just having a good headspace, positive attitude towards coming in, trying to beat the Clippers, then beat the Blazers. Understanding wherever we land in the standings, if we're 2 weeks further healthy than we are right now, or 2 or 3 weeks further healthy going into the playoffs, we like our squad and we like our chances against anybody. So we're just keeping a positive attitude about it and trying to make the best of it each day.
Last one, Dan?
Frank, generally just kind of looking at the schedule, I have it in front of me. It's like I think you guys have one day off after Portland, play Phoenix, 1 day off back to back, and then you have 2 days. Like that might be your only you might get one more practice for really, and then
Yes.
of course between here and the end of the season. How has the lack of practice time affected your ability to be creative in solving these problems? Has that been a sort of a year-long challenge, and how has that played out?
Yeah, you have to experiment or build this, I shouldn't say experiment, you have to build this cohesiveness in the games. Obviously, if we had practice time, the whole process gets accelerated further. But again, like nobody in the NBA has practice time right now. So nobody's feeling sorry for ourselves. We're going to make the best of it each time we're together, whether we're, touching the floor or in a film session, on a game day film session, like all those types of things move the needle a little bit. And, we're going to just push the process each time that we're together.